Mike in here. Welcome everybody to Panfish Nation along with Mark. I'm Lyle, and Mark, we got some stuff to go over tonight.
We sure do. We're going over panfish techniques tonight, folks. Man, that was hard to get out there for a second. I'm trying to type and I'm trying to talk at the same time. I can't do them both.
I get to filling out this stuff for our stuff that we post to tell everybody about our show, and I got to go back and check to see how to spell techniques because I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. That's a word that you don't use every day, so you sure don't type it every day.
Techniques, yeah, I had to cut and paste after I used spell check to figure it out. So. Hey, I just highlighted my membership milestone to remind everybody that we're having a giveaway tonight at the end of the show, most likely for a box of flies, right, Lyle?
It is, and now these boxes are set up to hold 4 in each compartment. 4 in each compartment. There's 5 compartments, and these are genuine Plano boxes. This one's already got 25 in it. Yeah, you never know. Another or 2 might fall in. Hell, who knows? But hey, Chrissy,
25 is nothing to sneeze at. That's for sure.
No, and a lot of them are topwater stuff that has been real successful throughout the summer. Especially in the late summer and fall for me. And then I tied up a bunch of streamers, but I haven't had a chance to use a lot of them. So some of those are in here tonight too, and some little bitty bugs, just bugs. Which
I want everybody to know that that's got a retail value of MSRP of $5,299.89, folks. So you're going to want to get on this giveaway. And once again, this giveaway is for members.
Oh man, yeah.
How you like that, Lyle? You like how I work?
That's real good, and thank you for being a member for 7 months. That's awesome.
Hey, here's a little backstory to that. I did that on accident one night, and I couldn't bear to undo it. So I am a member here, and I am a member on Catfish Weekly. So real quick, I don't see any of my members in here, but if you are a member on my site, since I am not doing shows right now, why don't you go ahead and cancel your membership to my site? Because I'm having a hard time, Lyle, trying to figure out how to put it on pause. And I don't want to discontinue it because I don't think I'd be able to start it back up again when I get back in the swing.
I understand.
So I'll be having a members only stream pretty soon to explain that to everybody. And
that's cool.
Hopefully everybody who's a member will be there. So
Buck Williams says, nice prize. Hope Danny Stone don't show. He wins everything. Chrissy Brown's another one wins a lot.
Yep, that's no joke.
Dee and Betty Jean win a lot.
They did for the longest time, and then they hit a dry spot. But Dee is in on this one because she is a member. So
yeah, Chrissy, she wins. She's won a lot over this last year. Maybe not every week or anything, but nobody does. Even Danny Stone don't win every week, but he does win a lot.
I think I've won like twice the whole time I've been doing this. So
yeah, I won one on what's his name? It's on later tonight. Shoot, can't think of his name.
On Hog Legs?
No, not that late. 9:00 or whenever it is.
On Wednesday nights or Thursday nights?
Wednesday nights, isn't it?
No, because we would change dates. I think we're both getting mixed up. Are you thinking about on Dustin's chat, maybe?
No.
Either way.
Houston.
Oh, on SKs. That's right.
SKs, yeah. I won one on his and didn't know about it and didn't collect. That happened a long time ago.
Yeah, I won some smelly jelly on SKs once, and I just finished that jar that he sent me, so I got to order some more of that stuff. Works pretty good. It sure stays on a lot better than those crappie nibbles do. So I've been using that with good luck. So
good deal. Greg Burgess says hello from Louisiana.
I bet you it's a lot warmer down there, Lyle.
I bet it is too.
What is it here now? I can tell you this right now. It is a whopping balmy 37 degrees.
I got 38. I'm just a degree warmer than you all.
Just one more. We had 2 inches of snow in my backyard yesterday. That was ridiculous. I know you
sounded quite funny.
The dogs at least loved it. It's got me in a funk. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not already. I got, but I'm going fishing tomorrow and Friday. I'm going to freeze my tuchus off, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going with a couple of guys tomorrow. I'm taking a neighbor out on Friday, and if I have the energy, I'll try and get out during the weekend. So,
Oh man, fishing fever outdoors is going to hit Havasu. Man, there's some monster bluegill out there. I've seen some pictures of them. That'd be really cool. I was going to go today, Mark. Try to catch me some bluegills and stuff. I'm going to be doing some catfishing this weekend, and I thought that I would catch some more bait, make sure I had plenty just in case I can't get into any shad. And I didn't just didn't feel like it, so I didn't go today. But tomorrow I'll be heading out early and probably stay until I get enough gills that small ones that I'm thinking I'm safe in case I can't get shad, because shad is the bait that I really want to use. And usually it's not hard to get, but sometimes you just struggle, and I like to have a backup.
Yeah, it would be horrible to get out on that water expecting a fish and not be able to catch bait. Been there, done that.
Yeah,
that's never a fun thing. I went out, like I said, and I bought some minnows today because I'm going with a neighbor on Friday. He's the guy who helped me run all the network wires in my boat and such. He's a network guy, and we've been kind of going back and forth with when he can. Well, when his wife had let him go fishing, to be honest.
I understand.
So I went out and I picked up some minnows for him. I'm not a big minnow guy, but if they're biting, we'll use. And we're going to chase some crappie on Friday. Going to chase walleye tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have some luck. But this time of year, this water temp is probably plateaued a little bit. I'm going to guess, and what I'm hearing, it's in the upper 40s, mid to upper 40s, and it hasn't really dropped or raised in the last week or so. So I'm thinking the bite could be pretty hot. The only thing that might get in my way is they started winter drawdown today,
right?
Chain. So we'll see how that affects it. So, but like the topic of the show today, you got to use different tactics at different time for different, you know what I mean, to see what works. So
that's right. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But what do you say we welcome everybody into the show?
I'd love to do that. I see Miss Annette's in the house. How you doing, dear? There's Buck Williams. Calvin Lassiter. What's up, Calvin? I think that's a new one. Welcome. Catfish Fever and Outdoors. How you doing, Lynn? There's David Smith. There's Chad over at Fields to Water, fishing with Steve Mosley's in the house. There's channel member and supporter D with Get Hooked on D Fishing. Greg Burgess from Louisiana. What's up, Greg? There's the great Missy Kennedy. How you doing, dear? There's Quiet Man Curtis. What's up, my friend? Ray Smith. He's a channel supporter and member. How you doing, Ray? Thank you for your support. Rowdy Royal in the house. We got Uptown Chrissy Brown. How you doing, dear? There's Matt over at Want to Be Outdoors. And Wayne Hoska. How you doing, Wayne? What's going on, my friend? Hopefully you're well. And if we see anybody, we will talk later. I think is SK in there? Hello, SK. If you're in there, I didn't see you on the list, but
I didn't see him, but that doesn't mean anything. I did see that Missy Kennedy says, "Where's the jig tying?" That's coming up a little later in the year. We got this winter to do a lot of that, so, and we probably will. We like doing them shows; they're a lot of fun, and I have a bunch of new stuff to share with everyone that I've worked on throughout the fall and even in the summertime. There's some new stuff that I haven't even got tested out, so I don't know if it works or not. But as soon as I get to try some of it and see what it does, and we'll start doing some of that, because I like them to work. I kind of like to know if they're any good before I show them to somebody.
This is true. I understand what you're saying. That's how come I've been working on a little side project / hobby myself, and I've been sending Lyle pictures and giving them updates and stuff. But until I get all the parts in place and the motion and the motions down, we're gonna keep that under wraps. But we'll be doing some giveaways and stuff here real soon to give you guys a little hint as to what it is. So.
And it's fun. All this stuff is fun that we do. It really is, and it all goes hand in hand with the thing that we like to do the most, and that's catch fish.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the hardest parts for me to with a lot of the stuff, including the jig tying, was just having the space to do it. And getting that boat's kind of forced me to clean out my garage and make a little corner of it into a shop. So that helps a lot. It most definitely does, to have the space to do it. So, and
Now,
I got to give a lot of credit to a couple of people, which I'll name later, that have given me a hand with some advice and stuff and some supplies, where to get and what to do. So,
do you have a heated garage?
no, I do not.
Okay.
I do have a heater in there, but it's not a heated garage. I got a
Right.
small
That's the
heater.
way mine is. Mine is insulated, however, but it's, I have a heater in it just like I have an air conditioner in it, but it's not heated and air conditioned like the rest of the house is.
Yeah, well, what I did today is I started up that little propane heater up and turned on a small fan just to circulate that air. But I got to tell you, I went out into that garage and I could smell the propane. So I'm gonna have to keep conscious of what's going on in there, and hopefully I'll be here for plenty of more shows. My wife doesn't find me laying on the floor in the garage.
Yeah, that's something that I watch, and I've never had issues with the smell of propane out there, and I've been doing it in that garage for years, and no problem with that at all, and I like it that way. And most of the time, Gidget stays out there, especially now since we got the other dog, because my God, both of them in this room in here with me, there ain't enough room in this room for them because they just go crazy together. And Eric, welcome to the show. Glad to see you in here, my friend. I know you've been tying some jigs and making plastics. For those of you that didn't know, and I'm not sure we've ever talked about this, Mark, but Eric has got into the art of doing plastic bodies for jigs and stuff. So if you guys are in the market for any of that, you probably ought to go check Eric out. And
I think his son is doing a lot of that for him too right now. So
that's awesome.
yeah,
What a great kid, man. If you ever meet him, you'll understand what I say. He's not he's kind of quiet, but man, he helps Eric. He dips stuff in powder paint and makes plastic stuff, and it's awesome to see a young man like that so interested in the things that his dad does.
I need you to read that for me because she just broke my heart.
I don't anymore. Just sold all of it.
Oh. Missy says, I was told there's a great jig maker on this channel. Now I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Then I see Santa and an old elf on panel. Just kidding. Love you both. Yeah, Eric kind of keyed me in on that a little while ago. So
yeah, I didn't know that.
It's
too bad. I didn't know that. I have an ex-brother-in-law that's been talking about buying all that stuff, and I would have hooked him up.
You might still have some stuff left over. You might want to shoot him a message, see what he's got.
Yeah, we'll talk. I had no idea. I thought he was still doing it, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to get into like plastics and hand ties and all that stuff and actually sell them like you think you would online. But heck, if it's a hobby, you can always make a few dollars to cover your costs and then a little extra. So there's no reason not to chase it. But if you're looking to be, filthy rich, you're gonna have to go about it a different way. Maybe
a different way than what we do. And you're right, Matt. It was SK. You was right. But I don't see all the and the chat's rolling along pretty quick. I ain't seen it all. I'm sure I've missed quite a bit, but it's just part of what we do and how we do it, and we're not going to see everything, but we still have a good time with it all. So we're going to talk about a little bit about fishing techniques. And
hold on one second, Lyle.
Uh-oh.
I just thought about that 2 inches of snow again, and it threw me off. Okay, you can go back.
2 inches of snow.
Of snow that I got. It's just got me I can't think straight. So
I still find that extremely funny, the pictures.
I know you do. I did that to cheer you up a little bit too.
Yeah, it worked. I laughed about it all day.
Anybody else in chat get any snow? I think Curtis might have got a dusting.
Yours all gone now, though, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Yours all gone now, isn't it?
It just, in the backyard there's a little bit because it's a little shadier in my backyard most of the day, but other than that, it's pretty much all gone. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, one afternoon and overnight, that's not so bad.
Yeah,
Could have been for a week.
it still might happen. It's going to be a long winter, I think, Lyle.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Anyways, sorry to interrupt.
No problem. We're gonna do some talk about pan fishing techniques, and we're going to touch on that maybe from a different perspective than a lot of people go about it. So um, I'm going to throw this out here. You and I talked about this before the show. All summer, I've been using a fly rod and catching bluegill and suckers and all kinds of stuff to use for bait. I like to eat them, but we throw a lot of them back too. Um, Cindy's always she likes to fish with a cork and a hook and use worms underneath the cork, and she's very successful that way. I just prefer not to do it that way. It's not that you can't get that's probably the most productive way to catch bluegill. Um, and you get suckers and all kinds of panfish that way. Um, we don't do a lot of crappie fishing, but that's going to change probably in the upcoming year with some of the projects we have going on. The other thing is jig fishing. I desperately love that. Now, as long as the fish was biting on the fly rod, I was catching them, but it got to where they was getting tougher and tougher as the water cooled off more and more. Those type fish that I'm looking for was getting harder and harder to catch. So I started switching back over to jig fishing. So I'm changing my technique to jigs. And a few days of that, really successful, had some great times. And when this cold weather hit about 3 or 4 days ago, and we had 18 for a low last night. Yesterday, I went out for a little while and 2 fish. I mean, it was dead. It just didn't matter what you threw. It didn't matter if you was fishing with worms, if you tipped your jigs with worms, if you didn't do anything, you just 2 fish is all you caught. Now, with that being said, I used hand ties almost exclusively, and they had slowed down, and I switched over to some plastics. Now, Mark, what I had used was a monkey milk color and to start with, and then several other colors, but these were made, they're little Hustler crappie tubes, and you put them on jigs, and these are 1-inch tubes. So I'm going to show you the back side of the package.
I'll give you the solo.
They're green and black. Anyhow, they're 1-inch plastic tubes. These things have a lot of action in them. I had really good success with these. I really did. Like I say, yesterday, it didn't matter. And when I go down to this place on the Niagara River that I like to go, there's a lot of fish in there, and I fish underneath a bridge because there's all kinds of structure that's washed in there, plus the fact that the bridge is there and there's deep and shallow areas. And I take 2 or 3 rods down because it's just right off the road. I can just walk right down there, and then I take a bucket, put fish in if I want to keep some, or if I don't, just throw them back out. But anyhow, I've had 2 cameras set up and all this stuff, and these tubes was killing it. So we went from fly rod to jig rod, from hand ties to plastics, and that every time you changed it was better up until yesterday. And like I say, when it goes from in 4 days, it went from 78, I believe it was, to 18 overnight.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That kind of knocks it out. But now we're going to have 60s tomorrow, so I'm going to go back out and try it again. I think I'll have better success. But everything that I done, when one thing would stop working, something else did work up until then. So we got another week of nice weather coming. I think that we'll be back on planet catch bluegill.
There you go. Anytime I've ever fished a swinging weather like that, it's always been miserable.
Oh yeah.
It hasn't been, not just the weather. I'm talking about the fishing's been kind of miserable. I've had nights where, it's been the only night of the week I could get out to chase catfish or flathead, and not even a bite, not even anything that resembled a friggin' bite. That's
Right.
happened a bunch of times. I've also, needed to get out and get bait or do some pan fishing at that same time, and nothing. It might be rough still tomorrow. I mean, if it goes from 18 to 60, that's just the opposite. It might heat up or not. I'm a firm believer that temperature needs to stabilize a little.
Well, I agree too. Here's the reason I think that it'll be better. Well, it's got to be better than it was yesterday. I think it'll be better tomorrow is because this is a real shallow area and it's a rock bottom and the sun's going to be out bright and shining. And I think that'll warm up the water a little faster.
That could very well be true. So you should let me know how that works out. Hopefully you'll get on them tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I will if we get on them. And I shot some video the last couple of times out there. I'll have some of that coming up, and we'll get it posted probably on Panfish Nation.
How are you rigging those jigs? Are you putting them under a cork, or are you just kind of free floating by? Okay.
No, I'm just casting them out and bouncing them along the bottom.
Bring a small float with you, Bob, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I got them.
And put one underneath there. You'd be surprised. Give it a little twitch, and that might even do the trick. So
this is a concrete bridge that goes for the road that's there, and around the pylon, it's the length of the bridge width. There's a pretty deep water right there, and I don't know how deep, but I'm going to say 5 or 6 foot. Where the rest of it is 1.5 foot, 2 foot.
Mm-hmm.
But up underneath that bridge, you can't see the fish, but there's also brush piles and limbs and stuff that's washed up in there, and love to fish that stuff. I pull quite a bit of it out with me. With that, I use a lot of 10-pound braid, which is 2-pound diameter on mono. And I have a couple of reels set up with 6-pound mono, and it's real stretchy, so I hardly ever break it. But it works good.
I like 4 and 6 pound monos where I kind of stick. I'll use braid. I use 10-pound braid on my vertical jigging 10-foot poles, my B&M. I think they're both B&M actually. One's a Duck Dynasty and the other one is a Sam Super Sensitive, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'll use braid on those, but if I'm casting to them, I like to use mono. It just works out a little better that way. So
Eric says he's going tomorrow, planning on long lining, small hand-tied jigs, maybe minnows. That should be successful.
Everything I've never tried long lining in cold water or cold weather. I don't know if they'd be chasing them. You never know unless you try. Like I said, right now, this time of year, they're moving out on they're on the ledges and points going into a basin. All winter they'll roam basins, eating bugs for the most part. After they're done feeding on shad, when the water gets really cold, I like to think that they slow down, the crappie that is. And once they slow down, they're going to school up and they'll move around those basins slow. But right now they're right on the edges. They'll be hugging down towards the bottom. I plan on looking for bait on Friday, and if I see some marks on the bottom underneath said bait, I'm going to throw some jigs down there and kind of just float them across the bottom. So
Curtis and the rest of you guys, Eric and all of you all that do a lot of pan fishing stuff, if you're catching great numbers or big, it doesn't even have to be big. Post them pictures on Panfish Nation's Facebook page. We'd love to see what you guys are catching out there. We've been getting a lot of people that watch the show that doesn't come in chat posting a lot of pictures, and we're happy to see them. Some of them guys have been catching some real giants, man.
100% they have. So yeah, I don't know. Eric says he's going to try long line, and I'll have to message him or call him and see how he did, or message me tomorrow, Eric. So I'm real curious as to how it works. I know Betty Jean and Brandon were long lining all weekend, and they finally got onto some. They got onto some stripers and that big old buffalo that they caught.
That was a big buffalo.
That was a big buffalo. That was a PB of Brandon's, I believe. That was on 4-pound test too. So in a crappie jig, that was probably a real fun fight. So,
Oh, I'm telling you, that'd been a
I think it was
blast.
right at like 19 pounds or something too.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. But there we go. I'll post on there from now on. There you go, Eric. Good man.
Very good.
So yeah, I'm curious as to how they would bite long lining, because long lining is kind of a fun way to do. You know, I've been long lining the way that Betty and Brandon do, just kind of casting them back there in the rod holders. But I've been looking at a lot of different methods since we're talking about techniques. Where a lot of these guys in the South, they'll use 3 different length poles on each side of the boat. They'll use like a 16-foot pole on the outside. They'll use a 14 or a 12 on the second, and like an 8-foot on the center pole. And they have them sticking all out sideways from the boat, which is something I might try in the fall. So we might do that. Normally I'll just throw them in my multi-bar rod rack, like if I'm catfishing and dragging behind the boat. Or I was even thinking about getting some planers. But if I can get a setup like that, I don't think that I need to do that. So Curtis has a question. He says, what is long lining? That's trolling for crappie or panfish behind the boat. Just with the long line, dragging a long line behind the boat. You got long lining, and you got also called spider rigging. Spider rigging's in the front. Long lining is just the opposite in the back. The advantage to spider rigging is if you stop the boat, they just hang there. Long lining, you stop that boat, they hit the bottom, you can get snagged up, just so you know.
A lot of people long line for crappie with little bitty micro plugs.
Yep.
I've got a box full of those that Mr. Dockery hooked me up with some. And then after I got some, I had to go get some more to go with them, just simply because they was lonely in the box, you know. And I haven't used any of them yet.
Yeah,
I say that I've caught some bass on them. But
I thought I had a whole box of them that you and Dockery talked me into buying, sitting around here somewhere. I'm looking for them.
we need to do that again.
No, we don't. I just bought a bunch of supplies for that so-called hobby I'm not talking about yet. So my money's spent.
I understand completely.
I got to back off a little bit. Heck, I spent $13 for 3 dozen minnows today. That was ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Eric says best advantage is he can hide from the cold behind the windshield.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, that's another advantage of picking up the new boats. Eric got a new boat too.
I believe he's got a real nice tracker. That's a pretty cool boat.
Yeah, it is very nice. I haven't seen it in person, but seen a lot of pictures of it, and I know that he's enjoying the crap out of that, which we all do.
Trolling's a good time. I don't care if you're trolling for catfish, also known as dragon baits, or for crappie or walleye or whatever. It's all technique. You just got to get used to it and learn what you're doing.
I don't know if anybody does it or not, but if I was pulling baits behind the boat for crappie, I'd have to have a couple of planer boards out. After doing it for so long with planer boards for catfish, I'm telling you, that'll work.
Well, that'll work. I think you were saying you got some of them offshore crappie boards, the little ones, right?
Yes, I do.
You can use those definitely, but I know in the past I've used weighted cigar floats in shallow water when I'm trying to keep the baits above weed lines in the summer, and that works pretty good. And I know Betty calls that planer bobbers, but getting them out to the side with those probably wouldn't work. So I don't see why you can use a combination of the two, use a different length in poles, stuff like that. So.
Our good buddy Two Stands Fishing says used to catch giant crappie long lining with small rapalas on a 3-way rig.
That's another way that I've tried in the past. I'll put a 3-way on the line, and with the trailer line, I'll put, just like Stan says, a small rapala and a bell sinker off the bottom, and just kind of drag that bait or hop that bait off the bottom. And in the spring, that works pretty good. Right prior to spawn. I've caught them that way too. That's always a fun way to catch them too.
I'm a little shocked that Stan would use a 3-way rig when he could be using a 2-way rig. Pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Cunningham says, I seen Whisper Pig do that, and he makes it look easy. That guy's a fisherman. He makes everything look easy. And what a great guest he was. We've had him on Catfish Weekly. He was a lot of fun.
Check it out. Look at this. Speak of the devil.
There you go.
Right on my desk.
Yep. Really cool guy. I would have every line tangled, only if you get a fish that's a runner.
Well, it definitely happens, you know.
It does, yeah.
If you got 6 lines out on the boat and you get a fish, here's a pro tip that was told to me. When you get a fish, let's say on a middle line, you want to get that fish up on top of the water and water ski him in as far as a crappie goes right away. That's the easy part. That keeps you from getting tangled up. Casting back out might be kind of tricky because you got to get between lines and you're casting, you know, whether it's 10-pound braid or 4 or 6-pound mono. It's kind of a trick, especially if you're using lighter jigs. Even if at a 1/4 ounce, an 1/8 ounce, you still got to be pretty accurate. And if you're using long poles, if you're using a 10-footer pole like I am, it can be quite the task. So you got to do that also. And Lyle, you know this from catfishing. How do you take turns when you got 6 lines behind the boat?
It's hard to do. It really is. One of the tricks for me is just start moving stuff around and cast the last one pulled in would be the farthest one out and just move them down around. That's one of my ways that I get away with not having too many tangles, but you're still going to get them.
It's like square dancing with fishing poles in the back of the boat.
That's right. That's right. W Catfishing says, what are these planer bobbers you all speak of?
They're just the cheap old they're not even dull. I don't know what the name brand is. The big cigar floats that you get at Walmart, the spring-loaded ones with the weights on them, you can use them to keep small, light crappie type baits off of weed beds, because you know in the summer them crappie like to hide in the weeds. If you can get them tuned, like right now, if I'm fishing in 10 feet of water, I'll put that a 16th ounce jig 7 feet under that float and pull it at a 1/4 mile an hour, 1/2 mile an hour, and I can keep that bait off of the weeds, and I do pretty good. I catch crappie that way when I'm long lining. And mind you, the place I've done that at before is only a 2-rod limit, even when trolling, and I'm still getting on fish. So it's a pretty good way to go after them, if you ask me.
And Stan's got a great comment on that. You absolutely need to stagger the length of the lines out to help with tangles. And
well, that's 100% right. True. But you also got to keep in mind, though, Lyle, that I learned this the hard way, is when you're staggering lines, you're at different depths. So if you're getting bit on one, if you're getting bit on the center pole, you kind of want to keep all of them at that depth, because that's where the fish are.
Once you catch them, you should know pretty much what depth you want. And fishing for long line for crappie is different than doing for catfish, because most of the time you're suspending up off the bottom and have a weight on the bottom pulling it with when catfishing. With crappie, you have a plug or a lure or a jig, and you're suspending it underneath your board or bobber or whatever it is. So yeah, once you catch a couple, well, these are at 8 foot or these are at 16 foot. That's where you need to put them all, because you're probably going to do a lot better if you do.
I've seen some tournament guys talk about they have charts where they actually have it figured out as to what speed they troll for crappie at a mile and a half an hour, no joke. But they're pulling for crappie. They're pulling double 16th ounce, double 1/8 ounce jigs, and they're always using the same line on all the poles at the same length out the back of the boat. So they got a science figured out as to how deep they run. So if they're marking fish, in 20 feet of water, but they're suspended at 12 feet off the bottom, they know how to get them baits at 10 feet off the bottom, so they're right above their heads. They know they need to be pulling at 1 mile an hour. They need to know, well, they know they can only have 16th ounce jigs on there, or 1/8 ounce jigs on there, or even 1/32 they talk about in the early spring is what they use at that time to get them really up out of the water. And most of them guys are using 10 pound, 20 pound braid, because braid cuts through the water a lot better. And they use the same pound test and the same type line across all the lines they got out the back of their boat, just so they got that, you know, all of them the same, and they got better control over
Yeah,
it.
I was getting ready to say if 8 pound or 10 pound braided lines working for you, you want that on all of them. Don't have one 6 pound mono and 2 or 3 of the 10 pound braids, because that mono is going to float up. Therefore, whatever's on it's not going to be as low in the water column as them braided lines are, because, like you say, braid cuts through the water so much better.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to a tournament crappie guy here few weeks back, and he's the one who was explaining that all to me when we were talking about long lining. It's not anything that they really do now, because everybody's single poles now with live scope, but this is a guy that's kind of made his bread and butter from long line, and he's one of the godfathers of doing it. And I'm like, so how do you know how deep you were going? How did you figure all this out? He says, well, he found himself a set of flats that were 10 feet deep. He found a set of flats that were 20 feet deep, and he would just tried a bunch of different combinations till he was dragging bottom. And that's how he figured out the speed and the weight and the type of lines to use. So it got pretty complicated. I'm like, how long did he said? I spent a whole week figuring all of that out. So they're pretty serious about what they're doing.
Yeah. Eric says 1 to 3 pound white bass will screw it all up, and that is a fact.
Or a channel cattle.
Oh yeah, channel cat's just liable to take off a straight line in any direction.
And
they'll bite jigs too.
Here's another tip that he told me. He uses different color braid on each pole that he uses. So when he does hook into a channel cat and they tie them all up, it's easier to untie. He knows
that's a great idea.
He knows exactly which ones are from which pole and which ones to, you know, undo and not do, or which ones to cut, not to cut. So
if they're not too bad, I'll spend the time to get a knot out of one. Most of the time Cindy does it, but if they're real bad, I just start whacking them and retying.
I'd rather untie them than than whack them off. I'm just stubborn like that.
I don't have, if the fish are biting, I just want to get the bait back in the water. You know, I just want to get it back in the water.
Understandable. But that's just a sample of how different techniques work. I know you like to use, here's another one for a lot of the people in chat that fish out the bank is, I know you're real fond of using, what is it called? Right off the bottom with the weight. Oh my God, it slips.
Drop shot.
Oh,
I love drop shot.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, since I'm not that versed in it?
I tied up a rod tonight. I was telling you before the show started. I have some tied up with hand ties, some tied up with a cork and a hook and jigs. I also have a drop shot, and a drop shot is where you have a sinker on the bottom, and I have 1/8 ounce sinkers, and I take side cutters and cut them in half. And then above that, about 8 inches, I tie on a jig or a hook that, if we're going to use worms, and you're off the bottom, because them fish will much rather go up to get what they're going to eat than they will down. Not necessarily true with red ears, but bluegills would rather go up for them. And sometimes I'll take that and I'll move that. I'll move it up further. If I'm not getting bit a lot, the chances are that if the fish are not any lower, they're probably higher. They want, you may be under them and they won't go down to get them. So, but worms, jigs, I haven't tried any those little fishing plugs or anything like that for them. But drop shot is an extremely effective way, and you just hop that sinker along the bottom. And if something gets hung up, it'll be that sinker most always. Not always, but most always. But you can usually pull those little drop shot weights right out, and you suspended your bait up above the bottom of the lake or the river, whatever you're fishing. It's extremely effective. If they're feeding hard, that's a really good way to do it. I love to do them to drop shot with jigs. And if I need bait and I'm in a hurry to get it, I'll put a piece of night crawler on about an inch long and a cricket hook, a number 8 cricket hook, which has a real long shank. That way, if they get it deep, you can still get it out without killing the fish. If I'm looking for bait to fish with, and that works really well for me. And what I do is put a Palomar knot on the hook and then run the tag end back through the top of the eyelet, which will make it stick straight out. And then
the hook point
the
up.
hook will stick straight out, and then you can put your worm or crickets. Man, crickets, they're amazing bait this time of year. And then you can then put your drop shot weight on the bottom, and I always tie a little knot in there because the drop shot weights have a little metal piece that just slip over there and sink into your line. But sometimes they'll slip if you get hung or you get stuck on a rock or something. You put a knot in it, it won't. You just pull it right out.
You can use bell sinkers if you're in a pinch and you don't have those drop shot ones, right?
Hell, Mark, I've used the little cone-shaped worm things, whatever I got. So split shot.
Weight is weight. If you got a big old half-inch bolt and you got it handy, not bolt.
It might be a little much, but you can feel the bottom of it.
Use one of them, definitely. You know what? I'm just going to recommend to you. The few times I've tried drop shotting, I've just used I like number 2 and number 4 Aberdeen hooks, those brass ones, which is similar probably to a crooked hook. It's just nose hook one of those Berkeley Gulp minnows right there, Lyle. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that will work great. I've got some. I've got a few of the ones that you had sent me left over, and then I ordered a couple of new jars, so I've got them in a bag, and I have everything in the truck ready to go.
You need a bait purse when you're going up and down those by that bridge over there, up and down the bank over there.
What was that?
A bait purse. We're gonna have to buy you one for Christmas.
Oh no, I think I told you, and I know I mentioned it somewhere. They had a bunch of stuff they was clearancing out at Walmart, and I was going in there every day. And I bought one of the big tackle bags, the big ones that are around $50 for $11 with all the plastic cases in it. And the smaller ones was like $9. And I bought a bunch of them for grandkids and different things. We'll give a couple of them away a while back on Catfish Weekly.
I got an idea. We need to get a merch shop started for you. We need to start selling some Panfish Nation fanny packs, Lyle.
If people will buy them, great for them. I'm not wearing one. So.
Oh, come on.
No.
We've got to get Lyle in a fanny pack on a kayak.
Stan says drop shotting. He must like it as much as I do.
It's a fun thing. And Joe Buck, thanks for being a member for 11 months. We
appreciate it a lot more than you ever will realize. It means a bunch to us, just like people hitting the like button. That means a world to Mark and I. If you subscribe, it does. If you become a member, we've been giving away a bunch of stuff to our members and things, but we're getting close to Christmas, Mark. We're going to have to open that up a little bit for everyone.
I think that would be a good idea. I might have something to pitch in for that too. So when
we'll have some fun with that.
Speaking of Christmas, I already had to cross somebody off my list last night.
Chad?
No, that's just somebody else. We'll talk after the show.
Today is November 1st. This year has flew by. We had a ton of 100-degree weather that I just absolutely would not get out in. I just couldn't do it. It's almost gone, but November, as a general rule for me, is one of the most productive months of the year to catch freshwater fish. Yeah, you did, didn't you, David? That's awesome.
There's Jerry Parker from Parker Pursuits. What's going on, Jerry? And Dan Thompson, what's going on, Dan? How you doing? Thank you for your support, being a member to the channel.
And I know that Jerry likes November.
He
That's a
does.
great month for him. Hey Nate, glad to see you in chat tonight, buddy. But yeah, it November is a very productive month, even up into December. Some years January works out, and some years it don't. You know what I mean? We'll just have to see how that plays. Of course, I'm talking about further south than where you are. None of that probably is super nice for you, but Eric, yeah.
End of September, beginning of October's hot months for fishing out here. Jonathan out at Hooked Catfish, and he's been slaying the big flathead out on his section of river way south of me. He's been doing really good. So
and he is way south of you. I didn't know whether he's south or north of you.
The salmon bites on fire that time of year. So yeah, it's closer to the beginning of October, end of September for us. So
that's awesome. That's awesome because at some point we're all going to be sitting around watching the people that live further south catch fish because the weather will get bad here, or it'll be too rough to get out in it. But usually in Southwest Missouri, and I think Eric would agree with this, it gets bad, but it doesn't stay that way for too long of a period before you can get back out. And now that I've found a few of these dock places that we can go and fish, you don't have to stay out all day if you don't want to. You can go over there, catch a couple fish, and come in. Or if you want to stay out, if you can stay warm. Staying warm is the big issue, and I have heaters, so that's not really a big deal for me. But the question is, when it gets like that, do you want to get out? Is that's where it becomes? Do you really want to do it?
That's why I have hobbies, Lyle.
That's right. Nate says, I would love to fish November. The leaves are tough on the river. They are out there where I've been going. I hook a lot of leaves and pull them in, and it's a pain in the butt, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, I last time I went out crappie fishing, the leaves were definitely an issue.
Parker, my big boy pants have holes in them. So
Jerry don't care about the weather. Jerry must be a diehard drinker or something.
But when I was his age, I didn't either.
He's burning antifreeze or something.
He probably does. When I was his age, I didn't care about it. It didn't matter. But when you get older, it does. It bothers you. You're thin. Your skin gets thinner, and your blood gets thinner, and nobody wants to see you out doing anything by yourself. They're afraid something will happen to you. Well, if it does, it does. That's just God's plan for you.
Calvin says December, January, and February are great months for crappie here in northeastern North Carolina.
I bet that's right.
I'm very envious of those people that can fish all year without suffering through it. You guys have me.
Yeah.
But then again, fishing in 100 degrees for half the summer is kind of rough, like they do in Texas.
That was horrible this year.
I
don't know how a lot of these guys done it. A lot of them was doing it by fishing at night, because when Chad Dee and Chad come out and spent a week with Cindy and I, and we went a few times, but it was 100+ every day.
We're going to talk about that. I got to call you out on something here.
Okay.
That same week is the week that Betty and Brandon were here fishing with me.
Okay.
And you posted a picture on your page this week.
I did.
Nobody knows that it was 100 degrees that day, which is why there was an empty big gulp laying there next to me.
The person that sent me that image never said anything about that.
I know who sent you that image, and she's a pain in my butt.
She had sent me that, and I told her I was going to save it for a rainy day. Well, I forgot about it, and I was going through pictures and videos the other day as I was editing some video that I shot, and I said, "Look at this! I've been saving this for a rainy day." And today is that day.
I wake up in the morning, I'm like, Lyle posts something. I look at it, and there I am, sprawled out, passed out underneath a tree with an empty big gulp next to me. Thank God she didn't get me with my mouth open or videoed me snoring.
If she'd been snoring, she'd shot video. There's no doubt in my mind. Oh, man. Stan says, I remember last winter, and by we, I mean Stan 3, shoveled the ramp to get our boat in the water. I've been to catfish tournaments when we had to do that. And people would bring ashes out of their wood stove and salt the ramp to keep it from refreezing and all kinds of crazy crap.
A lot of guys do that. It'll happen. Yeah. Over here, they just hop on their snowmobile and go.
Yeah, I bet that's right.
Lyle, I did mention that I would fish a lot more in the winter if I had a snowmobile, and I was told don't even think about it. So,
well, there might be a reason for that.
I got nowhere to keep it. I just figured I'd cause some trouble. So. And I figured I'd get her in a happy mood while we were at All You Can Eat Crab the other night. So it didn't help with that one. She was like, absolutely not, and continued cracking them bad boys.
Parker says 2 stands, a propane tank, and a weed burner lifesaver on ramps. Yeah, like I say, I like to carry if we fish when there's any chance that it's going to freeze on the ramp, I always got rock salt or some kind of ice melt, something to put on there. But I haven't really ever had too much trouble getting out because we always have 4-wheel drive. But it can happen. And if you're sliding backwards into the water, if I've slid like 4 or 5 feet, and the minute it hits that water, that concrete underneath there don't have ice on it. It's a sudden stop, buddy.
Yeah, but I bet you were puckered up pretty good that day.
Oh, well, you're doing everything you can to keep the thing from jackknifing, and it's nearly impossible while you're sliding. And then when you hit that unfroze concrete, you go, everything stops.
I bet you'd look the same way if you were walking across the ice and it cracked on you.
I promise you, that's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact. I don't want to be falling through the ice and stuff. I just don't. I had Goober Time Guide Service. Welcome, buddy.
What's going on, Dan?
I had a dog. We was duck hunting one time, and we had a lease lake, and it froze while we was fishing. And he was a big dog, and he jumped out to go retrieve a bird, and the ice hadn't frozen enough where he fell through with this bird. And I can see him swimming along the ice. He can't find the hole to get out. And we had a 10-foot John boat there that we kept in case something wild like that would happen. So I'm getting this thing out of there. And the next thing I noticed, the dog's completely out of sight, and I'm scared to death. And when he come up, he broke that ice, still had that bird in his mouth. Ice and stuff went flying everywhere. And he was taking his paws and breaking the ice back to get back to the duck blind. But I was after that, every couple hours when there was ice on the water, I'd go out and break the ice up around the decoys so he didn't have to do that anymore, because I thought I'd lost him that day.
Yeah, my sponsor over at Port Barrington Marina raises French bulldogs, and I was talking to him about that because he's right on the river there, and the river's dangerous when it's iced over. He says he loses like 1 dog every year through the ice.
Oh, I couldn't have stood that. That dog was given to me by our neighbors, and I sent him to be trained, and the guy charged me an astronomical price. I got it back, and he wouldn't do anything. I had to start all over with him, and he was the best friend I ever had, and we qualified him for the Master National 6 years in a row and never took him. He was just that. He was the most honest dog. And we didn't always get along. He was real hard-headed, and so was I. And I shot him one time with a load of shot because he jumped out of the boat when he wasn't supposed to, because he knew he wasn't supposed to. I mean, this dog take hand signals at a half mile. I mean, he knew if he'd done something wrong, but if he made up his mind he was going to do it, nothing would stop him. Looky here, the Fraternal Union of Catfishing Deplorables has arrived. A Polish he used to chase park cars.
Keep it up and I'll expose you.
Oh, man. Wow. If you guys haven't hit that thumbs up tonight, if you got any value out of what we're doing, please do so before you leave.
Hey, we got a few minutes here, Lyle. You want to do this giveaway for the members?
I think that's a great idea, Mark.
Oh, real quick, one last method or technique that we didn't go over was Jerry. Yeah, you're dying, all right. Is slip floats, Lyle. If you're getting it to the bottom,
I like slip floats.
Slip floats are good. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I use them when I'm fishing in deep water because you kind of have to. You don't have any other option. So
now Cindy uses them a lot. She also uses the ones once she figures out the depth. She'll put one on and just suspend the bait below it. But we got tons of bobber stops and slip bobbers, and we'll put them up through there and let them go up in there, and they're easier to cast that way, especially if you know where there's a brush pile or a limb that's down there. And it's probably, if there's this time of the year, if there's any type of structure under the water, it's probably holding fish if it's not too deep. It probably is. So if you know where that stuff is at, I know James Dockery, he knows where every piece of structure is on them lakes he fishes. He's
constantly sticking his head underwater, right, and looking.
Well, I think Katie holds him up by his feet. So
that's what you were saying.
Yeah. So, but he knows where that structure's at, and he knows where to cast to get to them fish, and it shows. I mean, the man is real productive. So there you go. Well, thank you, Wayne. Thank you so much.
All right, so that was the last one that I had on my list. I wanted to make sure we didn't leave that one out.
Yeah, that's
floats are an important one, definitely. So
I have completely forgot about them for whatever reason.
Let's see if I got the right screen here. There we go. All right, Lyle, there we are. We got all the members as of today at 6:55 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's see. Can I just do a solo layout here? We don't need to.
Michael Murillo says, I thought he was still focused on dockwork repair. Katie made him start using kiddie poles, so he's not hitting as many dock roofs.
All right, so this is the giveaway for the box of flies from Lyle over at Panfish Nation. And this is members only, so here we go.
Looking forward to this.
And if I win, I'm going to collect. No
there you
go. Dan Thompson, congratulations, Dan. Dan Thompson, contact Lyle Stokes at catfishweeklytv@gmail.com. Send him your shipping address.
I think Dan has collected on some stuff throughout the year, so
it's always good to make sure you got an updated address.
Absolutely, because even though I got them, it's a lot easier just to click on the thing and say, okay, hey, here it is. I just put it on there and make a shipping address label and send it out. Works really well. Thank you so much, Dan, for being a supporter of this channel and many others. I know this is not the only show you watch. I know you watch Catfish Weekly, you watch Catfish and Crappie, and no telling how many more that I'm not aware of. So thank you.
I see him around too. So what do we got coming up? We got Catfish Weekly on Monday night.
Yep.
We got Panfish Nation every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We got the bait shop at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time over on Fields to Water. That's Chad's show. Have a good time there. And we got Josh over at the Weekend Angler. We can't forget about his Short Tip Saturday every Saturday.
Oh, and he has some really good ones. And Stan is Friday night.
Stan is on Friday night.
Stan Day, yeah.
I always kind of zip through those once during the weekend at least. Friday night is my date night with my wife, so
Yeah,
that's one
and
of the nights.
Jody's fishing on Friday sometime, I think.
She sure is. She sure is. So
I can't remember them all anymore. It was once easy to do because there was only a handful of people with shows. Now you can watch shows every night of the week, and some really good ones.
well, before I forget, also, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No problem.
Chad posted the dates for Winter Blues, I believe. I saw those thumbnails go up. So go over to Fields to Water if you're interested in getting into that Winter Blues. I believe that Dan might want to get on there, and Stan might want to get in on that, and obviously Josh. So you guys, those dates are posted up there. I would suggest maybe even checking out his Facebook page at Fields to Water on Facebook.
I don't know if I should say this or not, but I think that filled up really quick. But I also believe that he told me that if he gets enough participation, they'll add more days.
There you go. Or they'll use the wheel. I'm not sure how they're doing that. Tune in tomorrow night and find out for sure.
Yeah, just watch tomorrow night. He'll have all the information on the bait shop, and you'll get to see Brian B. and Freddie.
I think Josh says Parker and I are tag teaming each other again. I mean, tag teaming or teaming up again. Sorry.
I liked it the way my first time.
Okay.
Chad says, I'm thinking I'm going to have to add more days. Filled both days in under 24 hours.
Right
there
on.
You go. And like I say, I didn't know if he wanted me to say anything about that, but a surefire way to get the wheel to get more days is a bunch more people say you want to fish Winter Blues and contact Chad, and he'll put it in there. And Eric says he's thinking about it. Eric just ran up to Truman. They'll be on fire at time.
There you go. And Chad says, a wheel might be good. I like to upset people.
Really? What's wrong with him?
Check out Eric Massey's Jig Company too on YouTube and TikTok. He's got some good stuff. He's also got a lot of good jigs for sale. Check him out.
And Missy was talking about tying jigs earlier in the show tonight, and I know Eric's schedule at work has changed, so we'll be able to get him on here, and we'll get that set up and get him in here, and we'll talk about tying jigs and all that stuff. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask him about that will make for a great topic, and Eric ties a lot of jigs. I'm still put out by the fact that he's not doing plastics no more. I did not know. So we'll get him on here. We'll get that set up in the next few weeks and make that happen. We always have a great show with Eric, and it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
All right.
Anything else, Lyle?
That's all for me tonight, buddy.
It's all for me.
Those that don't know, I got done with my back stuff, and it's doing much, much better now. I can actually walk around and set up and go fishing without having destructive pain, and I'm thrilled with the outcome at this point. So as long as I don't overdo it, I think we'll be fine. But it's time to fish, so I got to go.
Chad says, yeah, Stan was the first to not follow directions. D backed him up.
Yeah, well, if it's got to be one of us that's like that, might as well be Stan. Appreciate everybody watching the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so on the way out. Consider subscribing if you're not already. And if you'd like to become a member for some of these giveaways, go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you in here. And unless Mark's got something else, we'll see you next Wednesday night.
I'm good. Have a good
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.